Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the Introducing Highfield Vault webinar. My name's Adam Glynn. I'm one of the business development managers here at Highfield. I'm joined by Chelsea Tyler, our corporate account manager and expert on all things Vault. We've got Phil Reed, our director of IT, there in the background. Phil will be fielding some of your questions as they come through. Also, we've got Dominic Bing, our Director of Business Development, who will be possibly joining us for some questions throughout the broadcast. Amy will be there providing technical support throughout, so if you do have any issues, it will be Amy that's responding to any problems. So before we start, I'd like to draw your attention to the top right-hand side of the screen where you'll be able to see a small control panel. From here, you'll be able to select audio options and type in your questions as the webinar progresses. I'd certainly encourage you to ask as many questions as you work through. Phil's incredibly good at answering them, but we will bring them to the front and share them with everyone if we pick up on any particular themes. Again, we'll look to answer the questions throughout the webinar and possibly pick on some more at the end, but we will come back to you if there are any salient points that we miss after. You'll also see that there's a facility to raise your hands. Please use this if you experience any technical issues during the webinar, such as you're unable to hear us or see the presentation slides. Now, after we've finished the webinar today, I'll close the webinar, and once that's done, you'll be presented with a short survey. You'll need to wait a couple of seconds before that survey pops up. However, please do complete that with feedback, as it's a really important tool for Highfield to ensure that we're meeting your needs and expectations. On there, we will also be asking if you would like to have a one-on-one demonstration of Highfield Vault. Just pop a note on there and we will get back to you and organise a time to have that conversation. Okay, so I'll look after the first couple of slides, and then Chelsea's going to pick up and go through a demonstration of Vault. The general agenda today is I'll go through a bit on the development, so where we've come from, why we've done what we've done. I'll give you an overview of the key points for Vault, but more importantly, when Chelsea does start that demonstration, we are working on the live system. It's not recorded, and it will provide you with a really good insight into the main functions that Vault will offer you as a provider. We'll have a bit of a recap of what we've seen. We won't spend too much time doing that, but we'll talk about the ongoing support that we're going to offer as part of the service through Highfield Vault, and we'll have a look at some of the pricing and packages that we've set up for using the system. And again, we will close and throw the survey at you once we've finished. So just jumping into the first couple of slides. So a bit of background on the development for Vault. Vault is a brand new system to Highfield, well, certainly for our customers. We have the key to this was that we wanted to develop a system to meet our customer demands for a simple and effective e-portfolio platform. It's been developed over the last 18 months working with key partners and training providers. We've had live testing on that, and the aim has been to provide a platform for simplicity and flexibility, and the design's meant to be, well, it is user-friendly and suitable for learners with a basic knowledge of IT. Of course, throughout the development, we've relied on our understanding of delivery and the challenges of learner engagement, which has been incredibly important for us to include tools to overcome and engage learners. Now, it's been tried and tested. The aim here is that the system is designed to support apprentices, working on long programs, also learners working towards standalone qualifications. And we're now, as we've gone through this last couple of weeks after the first presentation that we've done on Vault, we're picking up even more ideas of how Vault could be used and utilised for other programme areas. So it's been tried and tested by learners on apprenticeship standards, as well as those working towards standalone qualifications. This gives us a real insight into how a provider would like to use the system, and also to spend the important time developing tools and functions that have true value for all users. It's been designed to be reliable and safe, so we're securing, it's used as an online secure storage platform of learners' content and supporting evidence. It can be uploaded from most devices connected to the internet, such as tablets, PCs and laptops. And Vault's there designed to also deliver Highfield resources, including in our e-kits and e-learning. That gives us gives you the flexibility of having something that's really very quick and easy to use from one location. And I think the key is really just so that apprentices or learners can access everything under one roof. So it's it's a really very exciting package. It's something that we're really very proud of. Something that clearly we need to do was make sure that we were offering the very best value for money as we possibly could. The aim there is really twofold: one, to save your business time, and also to reduce the cost of using an e-portfolio platform. So the commercials we'll talk about at the end, and again there's room for a direct discussion if you are interested in having that conversation with the team at Highfield. So I can't express enough that what we're looking for is learners to have the easiest experience and most engaging experience that they can using a simple tool, and that simplicity is really the key to Vault. We've aimed for learners to be up and running after a quick tutorial, so it's a kind of a plug and play or sign in and start model. I'm getting nods at this end, so I must be giving you the right information. So it's there really to make sure that from the off, your learners, whether they be apprentices or on shorter courses, can jump straight in, have a few minutes working around the platform, and then dive into their learning. Now, we are using, for a good proportion of what we have to offer right there at the moment, preset courses using Highfield's learning materials. These have been designed to meet the requirements of Highfield qualifications. Again, the aim is there for that plug and play model, where you'll be able to jump straight on something that we've designed to meet the requirements of our qualifications, and a really very simple and straightforward platform. So apprenticeship learners, those working towards any criteria-based qualifications, RQF from the range of Highfield qualifications would be perfect to support those. It will also, we have designed it so that we can support qualifications provided by other awarding organisations, of course, and also utilising your learning resources. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail as we look through the demo. So we've got a couple of screenshots that you'll see the images as we start to look into the Vault platform. But really, what we're looking at is just some really very simple tools that you can use for reporting. And the aim here is that we'll be able to help to improve learner performance and engagement, and support also you in how you deliver to your learners. We'd aim that, well, we'd certainly expect that using Vault will increase achievement rates, and it does allow learners to set their own pace as they walk through their own learner journey. Some of the main things, key points for you will be that you have the option to track learner progression. You've got the pre-loaded course material from Highfield. We can digitize your content, so we can create something around your own resources in the format that we'll see today. And we'll be able to provide you with a bespoke platform that will meet the needs of the programs that you deliver at the moment. So rather than us spending a lot of time talking about why we've done it and what that means to you, we're just going to show you. So what we'll do is we'll hand over to Chelsea, who's going to go through the presentation of how Vault works. In the background, as we're walking through this, please do ask as many questions as you feel pertinent. We will try to bring them up either as Chelsea's going through it or toward the end of the presentation, but certainly encourage your engagement. It's the very best way that you'll get the most out of this.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Adam. Okay, so I'm just going to change screens. I'm just going to head over to our Vault system. The purpose of the demonstration today is we're going to show you the learner side as well as the tutor and assessor side. Really what we're hoping is this is just going to highlight the key points of the Vault. One, its simplicity, and two, the value for money in which you're going to get in using our Vault ePortfolio system. As Adam's mentioned already, please do ask questions as we go through. Phil will be picking those up in the background, and hopefully we'll cover any questions that you do have as we're going through the demonstration. Currently, I am logged in as a learner, so this is the Highfield Vault dashboard. We are going to look at two qualifications today. So we're going to look at the Level 2 Certificate in Customer Service, which is one of our standalone qualifications, and then we're going to look at the Team Leader Supervisor Level 3 Apprenticeship Standard. This is a learner which is already, so it's a demo learner. One of the qualifications for the customer service, we've got some part completed work, so this will just give you a really good overview of how that portfolio builds up for the learner as they're going through the qualification. And then the Team Leader Supervisor is also a really good one to show you because it's got a lot of different content in there, including some of Highfield's e-learning. So it'll just show you how we can utilise the Vault and keep everything under one bracket. Again, it's just enhancing the engagement for the learner. But we'll talk about this as we go through. So if you're following my mouse, you'll see that first of all, we'll look at the Level 2 Certificate in Customer Service. So to load the details for this, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this course. Now, any course that the learner is registered on to complete will load upon this dashboard here, and they'll be able to select each course just to give them a different overview of where they're at during either each qualification or their apprenticeship which they're completing. Now, you'll see that this has just dropped down some information, and you'll see again, if you're following my mouse, I'm just going to highlight over the gap analysis, and then we've got the overall progress. Now, the gap analysis is an overview for the learner to tell them what they've completed in percentage, what's pending completion, so anything they've started or submitted that hasn't yet been completed or marked as complete by the tutor and assessor, and then you'll also see that we've got the not yet started, and if you're looking down here, you'll see that's at 64%. On the overall progress, you'll see that that's at 9%. So it's just telling the learner where they're at as they're going through until eventually this hits 100%. This information is also, so this will update as the learner's going through, and that will feed back into the live reporting, which I will touch on later on in the demonstration. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to scroll down. So this qualification is made up of 2 units. So it's delivery of effective customer service and supporting the customer service environment. You'll also see that we've got the journal over here, just in the overview, which again, we'll touch on a little bit later on. But what we're going to look at for the moment is the first unit. So I'm just going to click on delivery of effective customer service. And what you'll see is this will drop down each of the elements or the activities in this section. Now, as Adam touched on earlier with the development of this system, it has had an awful lot of feedback from our training providers and partners. And what we found when learners were coming onto the system, if they had a textbook and a workbook and they opened up the workbook, there was quite a lot to complete. And we found that breaking it down, as you'll see here, so describe the principles of customer service, understand how customer needs and expectations are formed, and so on and so forth. We found that breaking that down into bite-sized chunks just made the learner stay engaged for longer. They didn't feel like there was too much to take in at once. So what we're going to look at is, if you look at the first unit, you'll see that this unit is marked off as complete. And then we have the second unit, which is marked off as incomplete with a green tick and a little speech bubble. Now, as the learner's going through, their portfolio will be built up, just as you'll see for this demonstration learner here. Just to give you an idea of what that's telling us, is we've got the first unit as marked off as complete, so that's saying it's been submitted to the tutor. The tutor or the assessor has then reviewed it, sent some feedback, and they've marked that off as complete, which again is equating to the overall progress as we saw above. The second part, to understand how customer needs and expectations are formed. Again, if you're just following my mouse, you'll see here that this is saying it's submitted and the tutor has a notification. Now, what the learner's now doing is waiting for the tutor to review this bit of work and come back to him, either saying, great, okay, we can mark this off as complete, or giving them some feedback to further expand. And then if we're looking at, again, just following my mouse, understand principles of responding to customers' problems or complaints, we can see that this is incomplete and it's got an amber tick. So what's happened with this one is, it'll either be that the learner has submitted it and the tutor has referred it back, or that the learner's started it and there's been some feedback popped on there. So if I just click into this unit, you'll see that there's a tutor message on here. So this learner has submitted their work. The tutor's then asked them to expand on section 2, of which then they're able to go in and change this work. Now, we'll talk a little bit about the structure. So I've just headed back to the dashboard, which I'll show you again. And I'm just going to click on Unit 1 again. At the top, you'll see there's a PDF saying Delivery of Effective Customer Service. If I click on this, you'll see that it opens up in a different tab. Now, again, this is just to make it simple for the learner, because what that means then is if you're just following my mouse, you'll see in the top left it says Dashboard. So the learner can click back on the dashboard, as I'll do now, and you'll see that that textbook has stayed open at the top, so that the learner can just refer back to the textbook as they're working through. Now, what we'll do is we'll look at this unit here, which I'm just highlighting. So identify the legislation which supports customer service process. If I click into this, this may look familiar to some of you if you are familiar with the layout of our knowledge kits or apprentice kits, but we basically embedded this into the vault, so it works in a similar way. However, as you'll see here, I'll just put a dummy answer in. The learner will use this as their text boxes to answer the questions as they're working through. Again, it's just really, really simple for the learner. There's nothing too complicated in there. It's simply just filling out the text boxes to answer the questions. And then again, at the top of the screen, I can click back on the textbook as so and work through that textbook as I'm working through the workbook. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly click back into the workbook, top of the screen. And what we'll do, when we log in as the tutor, we're going to look at how to review a form. So I'm just going to pop some dummy answers in here. And you'll see I'm just typing, this is my answer. And then what we'll do is we'll save and submit this to look at later. Now, one thing to point out is you may notice at the top, we've got these different icons. So you can see there's different alignments of the text. We've got some bullet points. We've got making it bold and italic. So it's pretty similar to what you would see if you was working on a Word document. So if the learner needed to structure anything as they were going through, bullet points on certain points, we have this available as well. Now I'm just going to scroll down. Again, you'll see it's just broken down into different questions as the learner's going through. And if I scroll just right to the bottom, we'll also see that there's a supporting evidence box. This is really useful for learners on apprenticeships, which again we'll have a look at a little later. However, the learner can use this for any sort of discussions that they've had, anywhere where they want to evidence where they've found or research the knowledge for this particular question. Anything that they have to support this certain element, they can upload in this supporting evidence box, which I'll just highlight down here. There is an upload on each section, so the limit is 30 megabytes, which if anybody's familiar with that, it's quite a lot. We have never had any learner to date upload anything bigger than 30 megabytes. There is the capabilities to expand that a little bit more, but we feel it's large enough to take whatever the learner needs to upload. One thing to note is that the Vault is automatically saving the work that we're doing right now up to every 60 seconds. Now, this is really good. Just to give you an example of something that happened to me the other day, I was doing some work in one of the workbooks, and my Surface closed down. I'd not plugged it in, said I had little charge, and then it closed down on me. And I'd only lost the last couple of words in which I'd typed into the workbook, because this is continually saving, which we found has been really good for learners. Again, it just means one of the risks, obviously, with using online portfolio systems is that the learner could lose their work. However, we do have it, so it's saving again up to every 60 seconds, which is a really, really good point of this system. Okay, what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to click on submit down here. Now, one thing just following on from what I've just said about saving, for peace of mind, you'll see, if you just look at where my mouse is at the bottom of the screen, the save progress button. If I click on this, you'll see it'll just say success, your results have been successfully saved. If they hadn't have been saved, say for example, the learner had lost their internet connection, and it was unable to save, again, after this 60 second point, it's going to let them know, and it just say that this is unsuccessful. And then obviously that would usually give you a prompt to check your internet or anything like that. So if I click OK, that'll just have saved everything that I've done. Just a bit of a peace of mind for the learner. And then what we're going to do with this one is just click on submit. And then this will just say, submitting this module will make the form available for the tutor to review and lock your access. Are you sure you want to do this? We do have the option to leave the tutor a message. So if you see, I've just clicked on this little tick, and we can add in a message here, just saying, please review my work, or anything you may wish to add. And then once you're done, we could just click on the yes submit button here. And again, it'll just say success. It's been successfully submitted. Now, what you will notice, as this page is just reloaded, I'm just going to scroll back up to the top if you're following my screen, back to the two where we just popped in a dummy answer. What you'll see now is I'm just using the mouse on the keypad to highlight. Now, if you can hear this, that little tapping, that's me trying to change my answer. Now, what this does is this locks the text box until the tutors then had a chance to review it. And so what it means is that the learner can't be going in and changing the answers or making any amendments until you've had a chance as the tutor or assessor to review this part. And then what will happen is once you've reviewed it, we can then either unlock it or for the learner to go in and make some amendments, or we can mark it as complete, which we'll come back to later. So this is just again, just a bit of an overview of how the textbook and the workbook looks for the learner. And then if you're following my mouse, you'll see that I've just scrolled over dashboard. This will just take you back. If I click on it, you'll see this just takes you back to the main screen and back to where we were before. And then again, if we just click on here, this unit that we've just been working on, so identifying the legislation which supports customer service process, you'll see that this is now changed to submitted, and that will now go to the tutor. Perfect. Okay, so again, that's just a really brief overview of how this looks for the learner. Again, this portfolio will be building up as they go through. You know, this will have just highlighted how simple we've tried to make that, very easy to follow, nothing complicated for the learner at all. So yeah, just one of the really key points that we've tried to focus on. Now, I did say that we would look at the journal, which you'll see just up here. I'm just highlighting that for you. Now, we're going to look at this when we look at the team leader supervisor, which we're going to move on to shortly. But this was primarily developed for apprenticeships, just because you can log off the job hours, any support meetings, basically anything that you're doing through your apprenticeship, you can log that in the journal, and it basically works like a diary. However, we have found it useful for learners on like standalone qualifications to use this as a bit of a calendar. So they can add in if they've got any, for example, I know a lot of training providers at the minute have been using platforms such as Zoom and Teams. And it's just been useful for the learner to add in any meetings that they've been having as they've been going through, because it can act just like a calendar as well. And then if you pop in, again, we'll look at the journal in more detail when we look at the team leader supervisor, but once you pop that in as a task with a deadline or an activity with anything to do, it'll reflect in your calendar at the top. So if you're looking where my mouse is, you'll see that there's a calendar, and that'll reflect in there as well. So again, just something really simple for the learner, just to keep track of what they're doing, what's coming up, and again, this is all building up as they're working through. Just to touch on one final point for the customer service, the unit which we've just submitted, what that'll do is that'll also send the tutor not just a notification but an email, which we'll touch on when we log on under the tutor login. But what will happen is, once the tutor has then reviewed that, and if they refer it back to you or mark it as complete or attach any feedback, it will drop an email and a notification. So if you're just following my mouse, you'll see that I'm just heading to the top here. Next to the learner's name, we have the messaging function. And then we also have toggle notifications menu. Now, if I click on this, anything that's been added for the learner or reviewed will pop up in this notifications and also send you an email. The learner will get an email saying, for example, Highfield tutor has reviewed Unit 5 for Unit 1, Module 5 on delivery of effective customer service. Please click here to view this. And then the learner will be able to click on, it'll take them to the dashboard where they can log in and see what feedback that is. Just next to the notifications tab, we do have the messaging function. And if I just click on that, it'll bring out, there's 3 different sections. So there's basically an overview of all your started conversations. There's a group. So if there's a tutor or an assessor, you create a group of learners who are going to, it'll basically allow them to talk to each other, or the cohort to talk to each other. And then you've also got private, which is any messaging between you and the learner. It also drops in here as well. If I just click on this, you'll see it'll bring a drop down. And this is similar to how it'll look on the email. So your results for form aid, identifying the interpersonal and team working skills required in the customer service environment in the level 2 certificate of customer service has been unlocked by the tutor. So then you can then go in and edit that. And you can also start the conversation with the tutor on here as well. So again, just something, a lot of our training providers use this to catch up with the learner. So throughout the day, after they've had a Teams meeting or anything like that, they can catch up with the learner, check in, make sure they've got everything that they need, any questions, etc. So again, it's just something to engage with the learner as they're working through. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move on to the team leader supervisor at level 3 apprenticeship standard. Now again, we just need to click on this. So if you're following my mouse, you'll see I'll click on this and this will change over to the standard now. So for this particular standard, obviously with any apprenticeship, there's off the job hours required. So you'll see now that we've got this additional chart where I'm just moving over with my mouse for off the job percentage achieved. Now what happens is once you enrol a learner onto an apprenticeship standard, as the tutor or assessor, you'll add in the number of off the job hours that the learner will need to complete for this particular apprenticeship standard. Now what we've inbuilt is an off the job calculator for the tutor or assessor to work that out. However, once that's inputted, it'll reflect here. So if I just scroll over this, you'll see a little pop out saying pending 433 hours out of a total of 436. So there's 99% pending completion for my off the job hours. And then if I just scroll over the 1%, it'll say completed 3 hours out of 436. So this will build up as the learner's going through so that they know once they've hit that 100% percentage for their off the job hours required. Again, we've just got the gap analysis and the overall progress. So this is a fairly new enrolment. So learners not yet had anything completed to equate to their overall percentage, but just as we saw with the level 2 customer service, this will build up just to continually keep the learner updated with where they are throughout the apprenticeship. Okay, so you will notice, I'm just going to scroll down on the screen now, that there is a lot more obviously involved in the apprenticeship than what there is with the customer service. So I'll just give you an overview of how this is built up. So to start with, again, if you just follow my mouse, I'll just click through these different sections. We've got resources. So some of these may look familiar to you, for example, the Highfield Health and Wellbeing booklet. Again, just scrolling over that with a mouse if you can follow me through these. We've got the manager's pack, 20% off the job guide, the apprenticeship handbook, and so on and so forth. Now, this is just something that we've embedded onto this particular standard. However, it is worth mentioning that if you as a training provider have any supporting resources for your learners, so you have your own off the job guide, or you want your own learnometer, for example, on there, anything that you want to support the learner as they're going through, we can add this into the vault for you. And this will be available for your learners as they're going through their apprenticeship. And same again, we can do this for the customer service or any standalone as well. Just a really good point to highlight there is we can put your own supporting resources on and make those available for the learner.
What formats does it support, Chelsea?
So PDF, Word document, so any that we get at the moment we usually put into a PDF format, but we can have the option to put them into a, if it's, for example, one that we're going to look at in a minute on the introduction, be able to show you how we can utilise a Word document if the learner needs to complete a certain document for their apprenticeship, which we'll look at that next. So, resources. I'm just going to close that. So just clicked on that and that just hides it again. So just looking at the point Adam said about what we can support. So if I click on the induction section, obviously the resources is all there in PDF. You'll now see that we've got the initial assessment form summary. Now this is a Word document. So the learner needs to complete this. What we'll do is if I click on this, you'll see on the bottom left hand side, again, if you just follow my mouse down here, you'll see the initial assessment summary form is then downloaded. The learner will be able to either open this and it'll open up in a Word document, then they'll be able to save it to their device. Once they've done that, I'm just going to click in here in the initial assessment summary form. You'll see that there will be, sorry, I just scrolled, went a bit too fast then. Just going back up to the top. See if I've got it in this format here, if the learner wanted to complete that digitally, but if I just scroll right down to the bottom, you'll see that there's the supporting evidence, as we spoke about before, where the learner can upload that initial assessment form and save it there.
So it's possible to create forms like this,
Yeah.
where appropriate, of course, for the provider's resources.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll back up to the top, so the screen might just whiz a little bit up, because I know there's a lot to a lot in that one. But I'm just going to click on the dashboard again at the top left, and we'll just go back and look at that induction section again. So again, just clicking on induction, and it'll just bring a drop down. So we've got, these may look familiar to any providers which do apprenticeships. However, you've got the commitment statement, apprenticeship agreement, the CV, the job description, and so on and so forth. There is 2 elements for certificates, just a good point to note. So any certificates which the learner provides as part of their induction or their enrolment, we'll be able to store them on this bit for the induction, and then there is additional section for on program. So for example, if the learner is doing e-learning as they're going through, so they're getting certificates of completions, you will be able to save that as part of their on program learning. And again, this is just being built up for the main parts of the induction, and I'm just going to click on this bit and close that back down. So again, everything that the learner needs as they're going through is all in one place. We do have some safeguarding documents on there. Again, these can be your own, these are just Highfields. And then we have the own program section, which I'm just going to click on here. And again, this may look really familiar to some of you. So we've got the DNA, CPD logs, the certificates I was speaking about just a moment ago. So obviously any certificates that the learner acquires as they're going through their apprenticeship or while ever they're on program, you can store that here, in addition to the ones that they provide as part of their induction. Obviously quarterly reviews, etc. But again, this is just to give you an overview of how this portfolio is building up for the learner, and obviously the simplicity of having it all in one place. Okay, so we're just going to look at, obviously this standard's got a number of different modules in. However, really good one to show you is communication. So if you're following my mouse, I'll just click on communication. That'll drop down the information that the learner needs and the different sections that they need for this standard. So at the top here, we have an overview. So just saying what the module covers. So obviously about the knowledge, skills and behaviours in relation to the communication. And then obviously it's saying what is in this specific unit. So we've got the workbook, we've got the knowledge questions, then obviously the skills and behaviours, which are down here, reflect on your learning and self-assess your understanding. So the textbook, again, I'll click on here and you'll just see it open up simply in another tab, exactly the same as it did for customer service. So again, if I just scroll down, you'll see this will just go through as the learner's going and bring out the textbook as the learner's going through. The internet here is a little bit slow. I'm just going to click back on the dashboard on the top left. Again, knowledge questions, same layout as before. You'll see this learner's started some bits. So we've got started for the self-assessment and revision and the knowledge question. And if I just click on here, I'll click on the second unit. So K4.2, if you're just following where I am, you'll just see that this will open up exactly the same as you'll have just seen as we demonstrated for the customer service. Again, really simple, just text box for the learner to complete as they're going through. And it is providing, obviously, the question at the top. So which bit? So for this bit, we've got chairing a meeting, holding a challenging conversation, providing constructive feedback, and raising a concern. And then you'll see for each of these, we've got a text box for each bullet point. So there'll be 4 text boxes here. And then again, supporting evidence. Now, for apprenticeships, learners will usually put their supporting evidence for which sort of websites that they've used, or basically any source that they've used to get the knowledge to answer this question. Again, the textbook is at the top here, but the learner might use an internet source, which you can just attach the URL link, for example, in here, and submit this with it so that you can see where the learner has got this knowledge from. And then obviously they'd have some off the job for that as well, which will show you how to log that later on in the demonstration. Again, I've just gone back up to the top left hand side, we've got the dashboard, so I'm just going to click back and that'll just take us back to the dashboard, and then we'll just go back to communication. So I'm just going to click on this again. Now what you will see, again, this is why this one is such a good one to demonstrate. If you're looking, so we've got the skills and behaviours, which will open up in a minute, but one really good point to show you is the communication e-learning. Now, some training providers may already use our e-learning. So this is Highfield's e-learning that we've embedded in there. There is option to embed e-learning which you may use from another provider, or you might have your own. There is an option to do that. We would need to review it first, which we'll talk about later in the webinar about digitisation. However, what we found was when we got the feedback from the training providers and from learners, we found that keeping everything that the learner has to do, so for example the e-learning, keeping it all under one umbrella was really simple for the learner. So for example, our LMS system, if the learner had to go to the Highfield vault to do the knowledge, skills and behaviours, or to complete the portfolio essentially, and then they went to the LMS system or your own system for their e-learning, you know, you might know this yourself. I have 4 different passwords for 4 different websites, and it's just a bit of a pain. It was just really simple and easy to keep it all under one umbrella, and again, it's just all there for the learner. Now, I'll just show you how this looks. So if I click on it, one thing just to point out is, because we are on a webinar, you may notice that the audio or the video lags a little bit just because of the platform which we're using at the moment. So that is just one thing to bear in mind. However, it's very streamlined. But I'll just click on it just so you can see how this works. Obviously, again, this may look familiar to some of you, but if I just click on the next button, I'll just leave it playing for a couple of seconds just to show you, and then I'll click off of it, but it's just to give you a bit of an idea.
Welcome to this module in which you'll learn about communication. Now, being able to communicate effectively is a key skill and an essential part of life that most of us take for granted. It enables us to interact with others, help us to build relationships, as well as sharing our thoughts and letting other people know what we want and what we.
Okay, lovely. So that just gave you a couple of seconds into the communication e-learning. So I'm just going down, scroll and click back onto that. So again, just keeping it all under one umbrella, so the learner's got a continual view of the way in which they'll be working through. Now, there is 5 different e-learning modules in this one. So this is an example of our Apprenticeship Plus, which does include 5 e-learning modules, health and wellbeing booklet, etc. But it's just good to show you how that works. Obviously, the communication e-learning, quite self-explanatory really, goes in a communication unit, and that'll work for each part. One thing just to point out about the e-learning, again, as we was talking about the system saving you work continually up to every 60 seconds, with the e-learning, that is a little bit different. So it will save, if the learner starts it, gets 5 pages in, for example, and then they've had enough, they want to come back to it. What will happen is it'll save the last page that they was on, and the next time they clicked onto it, it would say, would you like to pick up where you last left off? And then they'll be able to click OK, and that would take them to page 5. So it just means that they're not having to restart anything, or they can break the e-learning down into chunks and complete that in different pages as they're going through.
So once they've completed the e-learning, I take it they can go back to that.
Yeah.
Particularly good for revision for standalone qualifications, or in this case, apprenticeships.
Yep. And what that'll do is where it says incomplete here, so if you're following my mouse, that'll mark off as completed as well.
Once they've gone through all of the activities. Yeah. So with Highfield e-learning, it is interactive, and it will, on certain courses, it will test their knowledge as they work through it, and that allows you as a provider to make sure that you have a note that they've completed that.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, you can chase them up to go back into the e-learning content if it's required from their program. And Chelsea, it's basically any third-party SCORM e-learning, SCORM package e-learning that we can host on here. But we obviously, if it's third-party, so not provider developed, we've got to get the agreement from the source,
yeah,
that we can host it.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, lovely. That's great. Okay, so just one of the last things to show you on how this is built up is I'm just going to click into the skills and behaviours. So again, if you're following my mouse, you'll see that it's just under the 2 knowledge questions. And if I click on here, again, this may look familiar to some of you who have seen our apprentice kit before. However, we've got the skills listed at the top. So it's just telling the learner, you'll need to demonstrate that you meet the following criteria for this module, and then the 3 skills which are associated with this. And then what it also does is it lists the behaviours. So for this particular one, there's no behaviours associated with this module. However, it would list them the exact same as we'd see up here, and they'd be listed under behaviours. So again, it's just making sure it's really clear to the learner as to what they need to be doing, what they need to be working towards. And then again, you'll see down here is we've got the supporting evidence, which the learner can upload that evidence into here and save that as they're going through. Again, really clear. Just try to keep it very outlined really well for the learner so they can follow the structure and obviously the right criteria of the standard as they're going through that. Okay, so again, this is just really to give you a bit of an overview of what this looks like, and as I keep saying, this portfolio will be building up as the learner's going through their apprenticeship standard. Now I'm just going to scroll further down to the bottom, so you'll see obviously all of the different modules for the learner here, right the way down to there. If you just follow me down here, we've got the CPD activity, skills and behaviours pack, which I've just clicked on, and you see that drop down, and there's everything that the learner will need for this specific section. And then that goes right the way down to the endpoint assessment. So it's just structured really clear for the learner. And again, you know, you complete the upload the evidence here right at the end, and then obviously, if required, we've got the assessment system as well. So just one thing to point out, touching on the assessment system, a really good point to mention. So for those providers who aren't aware of Highfield e-assessment, so it is our own e-assessment system, which the learner can complete mock exams or live exams on. So it is now available through the qualified home packages, which includes remote invigilation. But just to touch on today is the specific point of some of the specific qualifications that we have embedded the mock assessments into the vault. So anything that's got a mock assessment available, for example, one of our training providers uses the vault for an accounting qualification, of which they've put resources on here, and then we've embedded the Highfield assessment platform for the learner to complete their mock assessment right before the end, which the tutor can then review and make sure that the learner is ready for their exam before they take it, and obviously get the feedback to work on any specific points. So again, it's just a really good tool to embed it all into one place. It allows you to keep continued tracking and look at the learner's progression, as well as the learner knowing where they are throughout this. You know, the key point is to keep it clear, which is exactly why we've structured it in the way that we have, to keep it very simple, very clear, and enhance the engagement for the learner, to keep them engaged for as long as possible, right till they get to the end. So I'm just scrolling back up to the top. Now, what we did, one thing to touch on, which we spoke about the journal for the customer service, but just want to talk about how that looks for an apprenticeship. So if you're following my mouse, you'll see we've got 3 tabs just down here, which I'm just scrolling my mouse over, so you'll see those popping out. Now, the middle one looks like a little book and it'll pop out saying journal. Now, I'm just going to click on this. And as I was saying earlier, this builds up in a way a little bit like a diary. And you'll see here that there's a number of different entries for this specific learner. So what the learner's done is any activity which they've been doing, they've been adding it into the vault as they've been going. So we've got communication, they did a written assignment, and then obviously they'd log in there any additional files that should have got to support that. Attendance on a seminar is number 2, so just where my mouse is now. And then we've got research on communication module via some online learning, and then obviously when that was done, that it's been completed and when it was added in. Now I'm just going to quickly show you how to add a new task into here and how to specifically log off the job hours. So if you follow my mouse through this, you'll just see that I've gone to add a new task. Now, if I click on this, what you'll see is this will load the page where I'll be able to make the entry and put in all of the specific information I need for this specific entry. So obviously the receiver is the learner, so Chelsea Tyler. The next bit is the type. So if I click on type, you'll see there's a number of different drop downs which have appeared. So I'm going to select work shadowing for this one. So you'll see that here. Again, if I just click on there, that'll change it. And then we're going to put the summary in there. So I'm just going to put uh, 4.1. We'll add that too. Oh. So I'm going to put communication K4.1 under the work shadowing. So for example, I could have shadowed my line manager or my mentor, and then I'm just going to add in here. So you can put a task description. So just an example, I'm quite a slow typer, so I'll not type it all out. However, what I can put in here is that, you know, on the 12th of August, 2020, I shadowed my mentor, Adam Glynn, doing a task for preparing for a meeting. And they can add all the details in here. So I'm just going to put prepare for a meeting. But again, this is just to keep it short for the demonstration purpose. But you can expand on as much as you want in here. And if I just pull the text box down, that'll just keep going. So the learner can add as much detail as they can possibly manage. If you look over here, so on the functions where my mouse are, you've got upload a file, attach activity, off the job hours, deadline, add an email, telephone, and add an activity date. Now for this specific one, we're going to do it for off the job hours. I'm not going to upload a file, but I am going to click on the following. So attach an activity, off the job hours, and an activity date. And you'll see once those have been selected, they'll stay highlighted. Privacy, I'm just going to leave that as public, so that's just for me and the tutor, so that the tutor can see it as well. The status, I will change that to completed. And the section, now how this works is if I click on the section, you'll see that each of the different elements that we saw on the dashboard at the front end is broken down just here. So if you're following my mouse, you'll see that currently I'm on communication. So that's where we're going to attach these off the job hours onto the unit which we've just been looking at. So I'm going to click on that just so. Activity date, this will just bring down a drop down of the calendar. And I'm just going to pop that we did that today, so the 12th of August. And then the activity. So where I clicked up here, attach activity, we can attach this to a certain part of the units which are broken down, or the sections which are broken down in the communication module. So if I click on select an activity, you'll see, obviously you see the textbook, the name of the textbook, but you'll see unit 2, so K4.2. We've got reflect on your learning, so if it's anything that I want to attach to reflect on my learning part. You've got 4.1, which you'll notice in the summary I put communication 4.1, so that's where I want to attach this one. You can also attach it to the skills and behaviours, but I want to attach it to this specific one. So I'm going to click on that, And then off the job hours, I'm just going to put 1 hour, so 1.0. Then if I save this task, just at the top, you'll see now that that's dropped into the journal. Under communication, K 4.1, work shadowing, the date I added it, the status is complete, and then obviously the last time it was modified. So if I needed to go in and make any amendments, I can just do so under the I function. Or if it was set as in progress, obviously this one was set as complete, but if it was in progress, we could then just change that to completed, and it just give you a continual update of login information and popping that in there so that you know where you are. Anything that's not complete will obviously will stand out when you go in there, so the learner can just continually see where they are as they're going through this. So that's just an overview of the journal. Now, just to reflect how that works, top left again, if you're following my mouse, I'm just going to click back to the dashboard. And if I just scroll back down, you'll see now that communication has got 4 off the job hours. So the 3 that was already in the journal when we clicked on it all had 1 hour on them each, plus the additional 1 which I've just popped in, which is a total of 4. And if I click on communication, that'll bring a drop down. We've just put that task on 4.1 and you'll see 1 task has been assigned. Now, that's really useful if I'm setting something to in progress and it's a task that I need to complete. But obviously, again, it's just building up so you know where information is, you know where those hours are being logged, you know where these, where any feedback or any evidence which you need to provide, you just know where that is, and you can click on that. So if I click on that, it'll say link task in the journal, communication 4.1. and put that as submitted, so as complete. Again, so you can just go back and, oh yeah, communication 4.1, and you can go there and have a look at that. Obviously, if it was in progress, go and have a look at it, see what you have to do, and then once it's complete, mark it as there. So again, it's just building up as it's going through. Okay, lovely. So I think that's everything that we want to cover on the learner side of the demonstration for today. Is there anything that you think, Adam?
I think there are a couple of key points with this. So we're looking at this for 2 different kinds of courses. So one, we've got a standalone qualification, assessor based qual, in this case the level 2 certificate in customer service, and we've demonstrated that using the Highfield resources, and again the same for the team leader supervisor. It's really important that we stress that we absolutely would encourage you, if you have your own existing programs and your own existing resources, that you know, we would like to have a look at them, how we can structure it, have a conversation with you about how you'd like that to work on Vault, and we can host them for again any Highfield qualification, or indeed any qualification available through another awarding organisation. It's I guess sometimes it's a little bit lost in what we're doing because we're concentrating on you know, what we've set up there today. But what we're looking to do through showing you all of these main points is give you an idea of how it works and how it could perform for you, but also to give you some ideas of maybe how that could work with what you use already, so your existing existing resource, however that may look. When it comes down to digitisation, we'll have a look at the costs a little bit later on, and I'll recap on this when we get to the end. But to give you an indication of costs for something like an apprenticeship, the Vault standalone Vault cost will be £25 per learner. Now, if you were to use Vault plus Highfield resources, there is a fee for the resource, though. The team leader supervisor that we've seen there, the kit cost would be, I think it's £50 for that, so you're looking at £75 per learner plus VAT for the whole package, and for us to set up something similar to what you can see there today. And we can do packages that would include, for standalone qualifications, use of Vault,
use of learning resource, and in fact even the qualification registration fee. But again, we'll see those in a little while. But the standalone vault fee for a non-apprenticeship linked course, so a short course, that would be just £12.50 per learner. So £12.50 per learner. So it makes it really very manageable. Something that I keep having asked of me when we're talking about pricing is the fact that it's pay as you go rather than license, unless you want to explore a license option. But that makes it much more manageable when you're delivering. Possibly, you know, if you're coming to us with a stack of qualifications, but some of them are only in low volume. This is the ideal platform to use it across the board.
Yep.
So yeah, I think what we're going to do then is look at the tutor view.
Yeah. So again, this is just to show you from a learner side. We find this is really good to demonstrate, just to show you how easy it is. The important thing is keeping things for learners simple, to keep them engaged, and so that it's clear for them. Obviously, using e-portfolio systems, especially in the time which we're in at the minute, means that there's not as much sort of face-to-face contact. So to keep it just as simple and clear and structured as possible for the learner just helps them know exactly where they are, and gives them a clear structure to follow as they go through either their qualification or their apprenticeship, and especially with apprenticeship delivery where there's a lot more involved. So again, it's just to highlight what sort of experience your learners would get if you chose to use our e-portfolio system. Now, to show you from a training provider view, what I'm just going to quickly do is I'm just going to close the workbooks that we've had open at the top. I'm just going to log in under the tutor and assessor login. So I'm just going to switch that now. So if you just bear with me, I'm just going to log out and log in as the tutor/assessor. So this is the landing page which you would see if you was coming to log in. And I'm just going to change this over. Now again, it's just a sample account. So Highfield tutor sample account. And again, what you'll see is whatever you are a tutor or an assessor for will reflect on your dashboard, so on your main page. Now, what we'll look at today is, if you remember, going back to about 20 minutes ago, we put a dummy submission in for the level 2 customer service qualification. So that's what we're going to look at. We just want to show you how easy it is to review a learner's work, provide that feedback, and either refer it back or mark it as complete. So the easiest way to get there, I'm just going to click on the resource here, which will just bring a drop down of any of my latest submissions, what cohorts I've got attached to me. So you'll see here, just where I'm highlighting, we've got Highfield training level 2 certificate in customer service, and then this is the date that started. We'll have a look at the dashboard just briefly. So obviously the latest learner form submissions, and then at the bottom, if you just follow where I am, we've got my learners just here. So on this sample tutor, we've got 3 learners. So the learner which we've just demonstrated, so Chelsea Tyler, we've got learner Phil Reed, and we've also got learner Adam Glynn on the level 2 certificate in customer service. Now you can see here what their overall progress is. You could also click on the activities to see where the learner's at. So for example, if I clicked on full activity, that'll just give me a drop down of exactly what we saw from the learner side, so just an overall. So if we click on this first unit, this will just reflect exactly what we saw from the learner's perspective. Again, just gives you a brief overview, but you can pull this together in a report. But just one useful point to show you. And then we can go on detailed learner results, and we can also view, which is here, which will just give us a breakdown, which we're going to look at in a moment. And then obviously we can view if the learner's been IQA'd, any reports, feedback, etc. Which again, we'll talk about the IQA function as we progress through the webinar. So quickest way to get to the latest submission, the one that we just want to look at, is the notifications tab right at the top. So you'll see this tutor's got 17 notifications. If I click on that, what you'll see is the last submission, so that dummy submission that we've just put in at the top. So obviously it's saying that Chelseatown Level 2 certificate, customer service has had a form submitted for identifying legislation which supports customer service process. If I click on that, what you'll see, the notifications drop to the left-hand side, so you can work through these instead of going back up to the top. It just makes it really easy to, have it on that side, so you can click through these notifications instead of going back to the top, clicking on the next one, etc. And it keeps those in order as well, order of received. Okay, if you're following where my mouse is right now, you'll see that we've got the detailed learner report. So if I click into here, this should look somewhat familiar. What you'll see is the answers that we put in. So there's 2 dummy answers saying this is my answer. They will be, so the form looks exactly the same as what we saw for the learner. However, what you'll see is the answers will pop up and this will say, this is my answer. So I'm just going to scroll through that a second. Now, this will load in read-only view, so you won't be able to change anything. You'll only be able to review it and put your feedback on. So again, this will look familiar. This is my answer in the top 2. We would hope that the learner would expand a little bit more than that. However, it just shows you how it would look as the learner's going through. So this will be for each piece of work. So if I just scroll down, again, we obviously didn't fill the rest of the answers in, but just gives you a brief idea of how easy it is just to see that learner's work and review that. Now, if I scroll to the bottom, what we'll see is any supporting evidence. So we can click, we haven't attached any for this one. However, if there was one here, it would look, it'd say you can choose the file and then you double click on it. It is a double click. And then it's the bottom left-hand side where that'll download, just how we saw for the initial assessment summary form. And then you'll be able to open that up and review that as well. So I'm just going to keep scrolling down. See, it says section. So obviously we're looking at this particular unit here, but what you'll see is this will build up a caseload for you. So you'll be able to see anything that the learner has completed, which is the top one here. So describe the principles of customer service. We can see that that's been, it'll reflect what we saw from the learner side. So if you remember it, that had the 2 green ticks, which is just here. So it's saying that it was submitted by the learner, and then that we've marked the competency as complete. So you can see that just dropping down as I'm moving my mouse over the tick, so we can see where that is. If you also remember, we have the one form that was submitted. So on my caseload at the minute is this one. It's telling me it's submitted by the learner. I haven't yet reviewed that. So that's on my caseload still to do. And then there's the form which we submitted, which you can see here is submitted, and we haven't yet marked that as complete. So just to give you 2 different examples, we're going to look at understand how customer needs and expectations are formed. So the second form on here. To review that work, you just click on the little paper function here, and then that'll change over the form and it'll load up the different answers. So you've seen this is loaded, question 18. And you can see that the answers for this form have now loaded as I'm just scrolling through. Now this particular one, we're going to mark that as complete. So it was already referred back to the learner, as we can see with the little notification speech bubble here. And if we click on this black speech bubble with the timer, we'll see the message history. So this is really good just for tracking any messages which you've put to the learner on each particular form. So obviously when it were added, who by, and what the message was. I'm just going to click off of this one. Now we have reviewed it, the learners completed that, we're happy with it, so we're going to mark it as complete. So if you watch this overall progress over here at 17%, if I mark this as complete, which I just do by ticking the little set button, you'll see it will drop down. This is going to set the competency as completed. Current message is well done. We can edit that and change it by just clicking on here, and it'll just give us the option if I scroll down to change the message, put an exclamation mark so you can see that change, and then mark the competency as completed. And it'll say success. And then what that'll do is it'll generate the notification in the email which we spoke about earlier to the learner to say that the tutor's left us some feedback, and we can go on and make sure that's complete. And again, it's just reloaded that form that we was looking at to begin with. So this is the next one which we're going to review. So I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom. So the next one, this point I really want to highlight. So if you remember from the learner side, once we submitted this, it put it in read only, so I couldn't edit, so that the learner couldn't edit anything. Now we're going to refer this back and say that this is not complete. So we need to unlock that for the learner. You'll obviously see that percentages increased as well, just to mention, as we've marked that one off as complete. So the percentage has gone up from 17 to 33. We're just going back to this form. So just to show you how easy it is to review this. So obviously we've just set this one as complete and we want to refer this one back. So we're going to attach a message. So obviously we saw here that the black speech bubble with the timer is the message history. I just want to attach some feedback. So this is the clear speech bubble here. If I click on that, it'll say there's no messages currently. So we just want to change that by clicking edit. And then we're just going to put, again, we'll just put please expand on question 1 for the learner as an example. And then saying send the message to the form. If we click on there, again, just said that that's been updated, and that'll attach the message to that form, which we'll be able to see in the message history. So if I just click on the message history, you'll see that there. So that's continually building as you're going through. And then we're going to refer it back. So we're going to say it back in progress for the learner and unlock it. So this is the first set button here. So it's telling us it's submitted. We want to unsubmit it and refer it back. So click on set. Obviously your message, at which point you can edit. And then if you look here, you'll see unlock results. If we click on that, that'll then change it for the learner from read only to editable. So again, it's just highlighting just how easy it is to review the learner's work as we go in. And obviously because this is referred back, it's now come off my caseload because I don't have to do anything with it now until it comes back to me or until I next speak to the learner and have a catch up. So it's come off my caseload. So I know now that this learner's just got these 2 units which are marked as complete. So again, just something really easy just to show you. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll back up to the top and go back to the dashboard. Okay, so last thing just to show you for today, I'm just going to look at the team leader supervisor. So I'm just going to click on there. And we just want to view, again, it's just coming down with any submissions and the learner's information. But what I want to do is just look at the journal, just briefly. So again, it's just at the bottom. We're just going to click on journal. I just want to show you how, as a tutor or assessor, you can track where the learner's at and what they're doing. So obviously you'll see, if I just scroll down, there's 3 different sections. So there's tasks that you create for yourself, tasks that you've created, so you're going to create a task and attach it to a learner, and then there's public learner tasks. And again, this is just showing you, this will break down for each learner, but it's just showing you exactly how that looks, which will reflect on what we showed you earlier from the learner side in the journal. And the key point to talk about for this bit is, when I was saying that you could set the status to in progress, one thing to mention is it's really good to see where the learner's at. So we can see this learner's completed all of these things that are in the journal. If these were still in progress, and we had a deadline, so if you see where my mouse is, you can set a deadline. Learner had set a deadline of a week ago to do a written assignment, for example. We can continually see what's in progress to have those catch ups. So when you have a support meeting with the learner or you're reviewing their progress so far through their apprenticeship, you can look at these specific tasks and say, okay, so I can see in your journal, you've got 2 tasks which are still in progress and they're now past the deadline, and you can just follow up. So again, it's just an easy way of keeping track of where the learner's at, and also for you to add those tasks. So you just do that exact same way as what we did for the learner, would just attach it to a specific learner via the add task at the top. Okay, lovely. So I'm just going to head back to the dashboard now. Okay, so I think that's everything that we'll cover in the demonstration for today. I really do hope that that's highlighted just how simple this is. There is other functions which we would really like to show you through a showcasing session or through a further demonstration on a one-to-one basis, such as the IQA function and the training provider function. So again, you know, really useful functions, got everything that you need in the system. And as I say, hopefully this just highlights how simple it is and exactly how much you get with this e-portfolio system and how good value for money it is. But again, would really like to show you more about the system and those other functions on a one-to-one basis. I am going to briefly hand back to Adam.
And I will keep it brief. Thank you, Chelsea. That was brilliant. So yeah, I mean, this is the second time that we've delivered the webinar, and we've allowed a lot more time for Chelsea to actually go through the main functionality. We think it speaks for itself. We don't really want to have me talking over and describing something that we can actually just show you. So the couple of bits that Chelsea mentioned in terms of roles that we're not going to see today, it would have, you know, extended the time that we were on the webinar probably to the point where it was a little bit unmanageable. So you've got the IQA and training provider roles. They do give you what you need them to. The whole system is going to be a process of continual improvement, but certainly for these, you've got the main functions. Drop on your IQA reports, review individual learners and take cohort views. There are reporting tools that are built in there, and as a as someone working in operations or a director level, or if you're managing a sector, you'll have the training provider role that you can get a bird's eye view of what's happening, what activities happening with what learners, and how they're actually progressing. So again, it's something to pick up on a further demonstration. Just as a bit of a recap, I know that we've just gone through it. I'm sure there'll be a number of questions that you might want to pose to us after this. So do please let us know. But yeah, the main things here are, it's a simple, easy to use e-portfolio and learner management tool that will utilise your or our learning resources in one place. This is the real key message. It's a very simple way of managing your delivery to learners. It's engaging for the learner to work with. They won't be turned off by something that's overly complicated. And for you as delivery professionals, it's a simple and straightforward tool for you to then do what you do best, and that's teach, that's develop. And we don't want technology to get in the way of you doing your jobs or the learners actually making progress and developing. So a couple of key points. Yeah, tutor, you've got the tutor, learner, IQA, and training provider functionality, doing everything that we can see on screen there, learning journal and all of the other bits and pieces. But I think the demonstration really speaks louder than me going through all of the main points on here. So yeah, we'll skip over a few of those bits, but again, we want to have a discussion with you about how you see this working for your business. Now, something that sits behind every good organisation is a fantastic team to support what you're doing and how you're using the tools. You'll have experienced this if you are currently Highfield's customer, which I would expect that the majority of you are, whether it be just on qualifications or an EPA customer for apprenticeship standards. You'll receive a similar levels of support. So
We've got account management support there that will be in place to help with any general day-to-day queries, any amendments that you want to make. But we're going to introduce for any specific developments our in-house developers to provide that customised package to embed your learning resources on there, do that digitisation, create something that really will work for you as a provider, and for your learners as well. It's not just for you. The main thing is that your learners are getting a really clean, slick, and simple service that will support them and not create barriers. So we will help and support develop that content. And then we've got technical support for you. This is at provider level. We're going to be, if there are any queries, any problems that you come across with, any changes that you feel that need to be made, we can do that directly for you. And we're happy to provide that customised platform. So, I've already mentioned this. I did interrupt Chelsea when she was in full flow, sorry. But if just a reminder or recap on costs, per learner rate plus that for a standalone qualification, so just for the platform would be £12.50 per learner, or for a learner working toward an apprenticeship standard, you're looking at £25 plus that per learner on an apprenticeship program. Now, that is access or setup for a learner. In addition to that, if you're using our learning resources, there will be additional charges, but we'll show you those in a moment. If we are taking your content, creating something unique to you and the way that you want to work, there will be a process of conversation to have a look at what you've got, how it can work on Vault, and then we'll look at the process of digitising or providing bespoke content based on your needs. There is a cost to that, which we think is really incredibly very fair. So it's £350 per day or part thereof for us to create or work with you on creating that content or edit or change something that we've already done. That will be through a process of conversation, negotiation. We'll make all costs really very clear before we do start any work.
And just to touch on one point, so the supporting resources, which you'll have seen when we did the demo on the team leader supervisor, I obviously touched on the point about you having your own supporting resources on there. So that is at no additional cost. So anything such as I said earlier, you might have your own health and wellbeing booklet, or for example, staying safe online. There's no charge for putting that on there. The fee is just for your own sort of bespoke content, so textbook, workbook, etc., to be laid out on the Vault.
Yeah, that kind of stuff's just going to be feedback reports and any additional project work that you might set for your learners in your format. They can be dropped on there and in a place that would be natural for the learner to find. Okay, so just a couple of examples of pricing. I won't go through all of them, but these are standalone packages for Highfield qualifications. So these include the learner registration and certification on the qualification. So that's through Highfield qualifications. The e-kit, so the learning resource, that example of the level 2 customer service certificate is a really good one. So the cost for the e-kit and the overall Vault fee, giving you a total package fee of £77.50. We are talking here about AEB or ESF funded qualifications just in this short list. So typically the ones that you would deliver under those funding streams, but of course any delivery programs that you have, maybe that are possibly not funded or not listed, we may have something for. There's a long list of things that we have. I don't really want to throw them all on the PowerPoint. So if there are things that you're currently delivering using our learning resources for, we are likely to have done the work and converted that for use on Vault, and we will have package prices for them. Again, an indication for apprenticeship standards. So this is the cost of the learning resource, the kit,
everything that you've seen. I mean, that team leader supervisor is huge, and this provides you with incredible value for money. So the full structure for the learning resource in that format that we've seen today, that's covered by the apprenticeship fee. The cost of Vault at £25, giving you an overall fee per learner when you register or upload or start to learn on Vault. There's a conversation with you about process and admin for this. Again, it's really slick. Chelsea's brilliant at supporting providers, setting up something that works for you, and your business development team will also be there to help you out on that too. I'm just conscious of time, but we do have a couple of colleagues there in the background that have been answering your questions. I'm sure there've been quick fire answers too, but have there been any common themes, Dom or Phil, that you'd like to pick out?
Morning everyone, it's Phil here. Yeah, lots of questions. I think many have been covered, and lots of different areas. Quite a number on sort of people being able to use their own content and so on, which I think you've covered there at the end. There were a couple near the start around sort of the devices that a learner may want to use the site with. So we've seen from the stats that around 20 to 25% of the learners currently using the Vault are coming in on mobile devices, which, well, initially surprised us, because you think, you know, some of these forms are quite text heavy. You're going to have to be quite good at writing on small screens to do that. But you know, thinking about the context, a lot of learners are home at the minute and not always accessible to have access to a laptop and so on. So using tablets and mobiles has become quite the norm. So yeah, we're seeing that, and we know that the Vault you know, works quite well on those devices. We've not had any concerns or worries about that. So yeah, that's the main core ones. I don't know if Dom's got any.
No, Phil, I think you've covered them really. There's a few specifics about pricing that we'll probably end up picking up separately, I think, just in terms of people asking for individual lists of quals and lists of prices. So we'll pick those up separately, but there's no other themes that I think we should pull out here.
Great stuff. A couple of things that I think that we noted, or I noted down. We've done the bit about the IQA function. We will demonstrate that after. Reporting, that's either tutor, IQA, or training provider level. So reporting functions, I think we kind of skipped over that. So that's that you know, that's already embedded, and that functionality exists within Vault. So we have all of that covered too.
We do have quite comprehensive reporting as well, so it'll give you breakdowns, for example, of specific stats. So what percentage, if for example, if you're looking at team lead supervisor, you could break down how many competencies they've completed, what that is in percentages, their off the job percentage against where you would expect them to be. So the report is quite comprehensive. Again, we can pick up on that on a one-to-one basis, along with some of the questions which I'm sure Phil's been fielding in the background. I think that probably brings us to the end of the webinar for today. Again, I hope that this has highlighted exactly what we wanted it to, and the simplicity of the system, the value for money. We do feel like it's one of the best e-portfolio systems on the market, especially for the value, as you'll have seen with the fees which Adam's discussed today. So a really big thank you to everyone for attending the webinar today. We will email out a copy of the slides probably within the next week, I would expect, once we've had a chance to pull that off there. Please do check it out on our YouTube channel, so the Highfield group. Again, we'll upload this recording on there. Please do also subscribe to our YouTube channel page and turn on any alerts so that you can receive notifications from us on different updates, new videos. We also upload other webinar videos on there, so really useful for you to check that out. Adam did mention at the beginning about the survey. I we'd really appreciate if you did just wait a couple of minutes after we end the webinar, because it will pop up, and your feedback is really, really important to us, just to see, any improvements which you think we could make, anything you'd like to see on future webinars, etc. So please do wait for that survey to pop up at the end and leave us your feedback. And again, just to touch on, we will pick up any questions that may not have been answered at the end. And also, if you are interested in having a demonstration on a one-to-one basis, please do leave that in the comments. There is a section, and myself or Adam will contact you to pick that up on a one-to-one basis, and hope to speak to you soon. So thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to speak to you again soon.